The auction block. The dry winds of Arizona Territory carried dust and whispers of cruelty across the small town of Wickenburg. It was 1872, and though the railroad had brought strangers and trade, it had also brought desperation. Men were hard with greed, women scarce as water, and the town's saloons thrived on loneliness more than whiskey. On that scorching afternoon, the townsfolk gathered in the square where a wooden platform had been hastily nailed together. A man in a top hat, Mr. Fletcher, the auctioneer, stood proudly, his voice like the screech of a crow. Beside him stood a woman. Her wrists were bound in front, her head lowered, hair black as midnight spilling over her shoulders. She was Chinese, young, perhaps no more than 20. Her face bore neither tears nor anger, only a stillness, as though carved from jade. Her name, whispered by those who had brought her over from San Francisco, was Mei Lin. The crowd leered. "She'll fetch good coin," one miner muttered. "Pretty enough to warm a man's cabin," another said, spitting tobacco. "She ain't one of us," the sheriff's deputy sneered. "A yellow woman don't belong in this town." Mr. Fletcher raised his hand. "Gentlemen, you know the rules. This woman is property of the debt company. She can cook, clean, and serve. We start at $5. But silence followed. Men shifted, some tempted but fearful of scorn. Owning a Chinese woman meant ridicule, suspicion, maybe violence. No one dared raise a hand. Then, from the edge of the crowd, a tall figure stepped forward. Ethan McGraw, a rancher of 35, broad-shouldered, sunburnt from years under the sky. His hands were calloused, his face scarred at the jaw from an old cavalry fight. Folks knew him as a loner, a man who kept his ranch running without asking for help, who spoke little, but whose temper flared when injustice crossed his path. His voice carried steady. $3. The crowd turned in disbelief. "3," someone laughed. "That ain't even the startin' bid. Why would McGraw want her?" Mr. Fletcher frowned. "Sir, the bid begins at 5. Ethan's eyes narrowed. $3. That's all I'll pay. She's not property. She's a woman. You want her gone, you take my 3. The murmur grew. Men spat curses, but none stepped forward to outbid him. Fletcher hesitated, greedy for more, yet desperate to be rid of her. Finally, he slammed his hand down. "Sold. To Ethan McGraw, for $3. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some laughed. Some muttered threats. A few women crossed themselves. Ethan walked forward, took out 3 crumpled bills, and placed them in Fletcher's palm. Then, gently, he untied the ropes from Mei Lin's wrists. She looked up at him for the first time, her dark eyes carrying fear, exhaustion, but also a flicker of astonishment. He spoke softly, only to her. "You're free now. Come with me if you choose." For a long heartbeat, she did not move. Then she stepped down from the platform and walked beside him, silent but determined. The ride to the ranch. They rode together on Ethan's horse, the sun dipping low across the desert horizon. Neither spoke much. Mei Lin clutched his coat, her silence heavy with questions. At last she asked, her voice accented but clear. "Why you buy me?" Ethan looked ahead, reins steady. "Didn't buy you. I kept them from using you. That's all. You don't want servant?" "No," he glanced at her. "You'll have a place. My ranch is quiet. Nobody'll trouble you there." Her brow furrowed. She did not trust it yet. Men had promised her safety before. Men had also beaten, starved, and caged her. Yet something in his tone was different, plain, solid, like the desert rock. The town's reaction. Back in Wickenburg, the mood shifted dark. The saloon buzzed with mockery. McGraw paid $3 for a China doll. "Reckon he's gone mad. Filthy foreigner, she'll curse his land." By nightfall, whispers turned sharper. Some men spat, "No foreign woman belongs here." Others muttered, "Burn him out before he spreads their kind." The sheriff, a man too fond of whiskey and bribes, did nothing to still the talk. He leaned back in his chair and shrugged. "If McGraw wants trouble, let him have it." At the ranch. Ethan's ranch lay 5 miles from town, spread with golden grass and cedar-fenced pastures. The house was plain but sturdy. When they arrived, he helped Mei Lin down from the horse. She looked at the cabin as though it were another cage. He said simply, "Inside's warm. You'll eat. Rest. You can leave if you want when you're strong enough." Inside, he set stew on the table. She sat carefully, hands folded in her lap. He noticed how she flinched at sudden movement, how her eyes darted to doors and windows as if always seeking escape. After supper, he spoke gently. "You got family?" She shook her head. "All gone. In Canton, hunger. I come to Gold Mountain. Promises. Lies. Work in house, then sold. Always sold." Her voice cracked, though she fought the tears. Ethan listened, jaw tight. "Not here. Not again." For the first time, Mei Lin studied him. His eyes were steady, not greedy. His silence was not cruel but respectful. Perhaps, just perhaps, this man meant what he said. A spark in the dark. That night, Ethan gave her the small bedroom, taking the floor by the fire for himself. As she lay in the narrow bed, Mei Lin stared at the ceiling, the smell of cedar and smoke wrapping around her. She whispered to herself in Cantonese, prayers she had nearly forgotten. Outside, coyotes howled. Inside, the steady rhythm of Ethan's breathing filled the silence. For the first time in many years, Mei Lin allowed her eyes to close without fear of being dragged awake. She did not yet know the town's anger, the danger simmering like coals. She only knew that for $3, her life had shifted course. And Ethan McGraw, lonely, wounded, yet unyielding, did not yet know that the choice he made in the square would bring fire and fury to his very doorstep. Fire at midnight. The days that followed brought quiet work at Ethan McGraw's ranch. Ethan rose before dawn, tended cattle, repaired fences, hauled water. Mei Lin moved through the house with silent grace, cooking meals, sweeping floors, and slowly shaping the barren cabin into something gentler. She hummed soft songs in her own tongue, strange yet soothing in the lonely desert air. Still, she kept her distance. She spoke little, her eyes always watching him, waiting to see when kindness would sour into cruelty. Ethan never pressed her. He gave her space, a small garden plot by the stream, and the simple dignity of choice. But beyond the ranch, the town's anger festered. Whispers of hate. In the Wickenburg saloon, whiskey loosened tongues. "That rancher brought yellow blood into our land. He's a fool. They breed filth. Burn him out. Teach him what happens to men who bring shame here." By the third week, the talk turned to action. A dozen men, led by Caleb Turner, a bitter prospector, gathered in shadows. Caleb had once courted a widow Ethan refused to fight over, and he carried that grudge like a thorn in his flesh. He spat on the floor. "McGraw shamed this town. Tomorrow night we ride out. We torch his house, drive the China woman screaming into the desert. Let buzzards take her." No man objected. Hatred and whiskey were easy masters. The growing bond. That evening at the ranch, Ethan returned from branding cattle to find Mei Lin in the kitchen, her hair tied back, sleeves rolled. She looked up shyly as he stepped in. "I made bread," she said softly, her English broken but careful. He tasted it. Warm, soft, better than anything he'd eaten in months. He smiled, something he rarely did. "You've done more for this place than I have in years." Her cheeks colored faintly. For a moment their eyes held, his, weathered and tired, hers, dark but glimmering with life. Still she turned away, whispering, "Men always take. Why you give?" Ethan leaned against the doorframe, his voice low. "Because I know what it's like to lose everything. And because you deserve more than chains." Her lips trembled. She did not speak again, but that night, when she laid down, her heart beat differently, half in fear, half in hope. The midnight riders. The attack came under a moonless sky. Dogs barked first. Then hoofbeats thundered across the dirt. Ethan rose instantly, pulling on his boots. Through the window he saw torches, flames swaying in a dozen hands. "Stay inside," he told Mei Lin firmly, grabbing his rifle. But Mei Lin, trembling, clutched his arm. "They come for me. I know this. If you fight, they kill you. I've fought worse," he muttered, loading a round. "But I won't let them take you." The riders surrounded the house. Caleb's voice rang out, cruel and mocking. "McGraw, send the China whore out, and maybe we let your house stand." Ethan stepped onto the porch, rifle steady. His voice cut the night. "She stays here. Anyone who crosses that fence dies on my land." The men jeered. A torch flew, striking the fence, flames licking dry wood. Another torch smashed against the cabin wall, fire spreading fast. Ethan fired, the crack echoing across the desert. One rider's torch fell as he toppled from the saddle. Chaos erupted. Shots rang out, fire blazed brighter. Inside, Mei Lin grabbed a bucket, dousing flames with water from the barrel. Smoke stung her eyes, but she fought desperately, refusing to watch her fragile safety burn. Ethan reloaded, firing steady, each shot driving men back. But there were too many. A bullet grazed his shoulder, blood soaking his shirt. He staggered, nearly falling. Mei Lin screamed his name, rushing to his side. Without thinking, she pressed cloth against his wound, whispering in Cantonese, "Don't leave me! Don't leave me!" Her touch steadied him more than pain broke him. The turning point. As the mob pressed closer, Ethan gritted his teeth. He knew he couldn't hold forever. Then, from the ridge, came a sound, the piercing whistle of cavalry horns. Lanterns glowed as a patrol of U.S. soldiers rode in, rifles leveled. The sheriff, too cowardly to stand alone, had finally summoned them when gunfire shook the town. The riders scattered like wolves at dawn. Caleb cursed, spurred his horse, and fled into darkness. Ethan, exhausted, sank against the porch rail, bloodied but alive. The soldiers stamped out flames, saving most of the house. Smoke lingered, bitter but beaten. Confessions in the ashes. After the soldiers left, silence settled heavy. Ethan sat by the fire inside, arm bandaged, while Mei Lin knelt beside him. Her hands trembled, not from fear this time, but from the weight of what had nearly been lost. "You nearly die for me," she whispered. He looked at her, eyes steady despite pain. "I'd do it again. You're worth more than $3, Mei Lin. More than all of them put together." Tears slipped down her cheeks. For years she had been nothing but a price, a trade, a body. No one had spoken of her worth. Not until him. Slowly, she reached for his hand, her voice breaking. "If you want me, I stay. Not servant. Not debt. I stay, as woman." Ethan's rough fingers closed around hers. His voice was low, steady, carrying all the truth he had. "As my partner. As my wife, if you'll have me." Her breath caught, then she nodded, a smile trembling through her tears. A new dawn. The sun rose the next morning over scorched fences and blackened ground, but also over something new. In the quiet kitchen, Ethan and Mei Lin shared bread and coffee, not as rescuer and rescued, but as two souls bound by fire and choice. The town still whispered. Prejudice still simmered. But at the McGraw Ranch, they built something no hatred could burn, a home, a love stronger than fear. For $3, Ethan had not bought a woman. He had saved her. And in turn, she had saved him from the silence of his lonely life. And together, they began again.